everybody, and welcome back to Finding Wendy. It's episode 24, and I am super, super excited to announce that here in episode 24, it's finally here, my book. My Finding Wendy book is published and finished finally, and I'm super, super excited about sharing a bit about the book in this episode on my Finding Wendy podcast, because it's been a lifelong dream to write this book and to let you all know about it and share my stories. And that's, it's great fun. It's, 150 odd pages, and it was an awful lot of fun to write and important for me to write as well. So, the day that I've been talking about this, hinting about this, probably driving you all a little bit nuts about it, my book Finding Wendy is officially out in the world. So it's my life. It's in print. It's all the music, all the misadventures, all of the messy bits and the moments that made me. And I've got to tell you, holding this first copy of the book in my hands was surreal. I've held a lot of things in my hands in my career, of course, my French horn, some batons even, some occasional glass of wine, but holding my life in book form, that's something else. So today's episode is a celebration, and I'm going to share a few highlights from the book, give you a peek behind the scenes of the writing process, and maybe even read a couple of my favorite passages. Think of it as a live liner notes to Finding Wendy. So let's start at the beginning, or at least one of the beginnings. So I was born in Toronto, the daughter of Dutch immigrants who arrived in Canada with almost nothing except a work ethic, a sense of humor and recipes that would eventually be my undoing. My childhood was a mix of street hockey in Don Mills and Dutch folk dancing in homemade costumes. Yes, there are pictures in the book. No, you can't see them unless you buy the book. So by the time I was 12, I'd fallen in love with the French horn. Not because of its noble sound, no, because it was shiny and nobody else in the band wanted it. It was so beautiful, so intricate, so artistic, and I thought, oh my God, I need to play that. So, which in hindsight, it has kind of been my life motto: pick the thing nobody else wants and make it mine. And from there, music became my passport. And that passport took me to Amsterdam for 2 unforgettable decades, playing, touring, and living in a city that embraced me, challenged me, and occasionally made fun of my Dutch with a Canadian accent. So now, Finding Wendy is not just a music memoir. It's all about living in a body that the world had a lot of opinions about. I've been 450 pounds. I've been on crash diets. I've been congratulated for losing weight and shamed for gaining it back. And sometimes by the same person in the same year. So in this book, I talk about what it's like to walk on stage and know that people are looking at you before they've even heard you play a note. I talk about the yo-yo dieting cycle, my first attempt at bariatric surgery that didn't happen, and the second attempt that did, and what happens after and before the photos. So I posted them over the years, the before and after photos, and it's quite astonishing. So I'm radically honest about my weight regain as well during the pandemic. We all have experienced it. I experienced it as well, and it was very frustrating. I talk about finding intermittent fasting and about the emotional work that never stops. And in the end, I talk about my present journey on Ozempic. And I do it with a bit of humor because honestly, if you can't laugh about it, what can you laugh about? Really? So music isn't just my profession. It's a survival strategy. In my book, Finding Wendy, you'll read about performing with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra and about the magic of Mahler's Resurrection Symphony and about concerts where you feel the audience breathe with me. You'll also read about love, falling in it, losing it, finding it again in unexpected forms, and about grief. The loss of my parents, the loss of dear friends, and the loss of parts of myself I thought I couldn't live without. And still, the horn was always there. Even in the worst times, music gave me a reason to keep going, and sometimes a way to say goodbye. So I thought I'd read a short excerpt from chapter 1, Growing Up in a Dutch Costume. And it's, there it is, chapter 1. So folk dancing wasn't the only real form of exercise I had as a kid. Unless you count sprinting to the corner store for a Mars bar or running away from kids calling me names at recess. But folk dancing, that was official, organized, and required. From the time I was 7 until I was 14, my sisters and I danced Dutch folk dances under the watchful eye and guiding hand of my mother, a proud Dutch folklorist who believed heritage wasn't something you just talked about, but something you wore, sang, and performed. My first costume, handmade by her. The costume, the fabric was stiff. The lace itched. The apron never quite right, but it was beautiful. It was from Walcheren, a small island in the province of Zeeland, and my mother sewed it late into the evenings in our Daw Mills basement. I could hear the hum of her old black Singer machine. A sound both rhythmic and confronting, like a lullaby stitched into the floorboards. She worked with precision, her foot steady on the pedal, her fingers guiding the fabric with the concentration of a heart surgeon. I'd lie in bed upstairs listening to the clack, 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 echoing through the heating vents, the scent of the starch and the steam wafting up like incense. "Don't touch the lace," she'd warn me as she pressed the sleeves. "It's delicate. And that's real Dutch bobbin lace." I never dared. The costume wasn't just an outfit. It was a responsibility. It was heritage made visible. The big stage. My premier dancing career began in 1967. We piled into our own old family car, costumes and garment bags. Destination, Montreal. Purpose, to perform with the Netherlands folklore group at the beginning and opening of Expo 67. I was 7. The ride was long and mostly a blur. My head pressed against the car window, trying to not feel carsick, as Ontario rolled past in green and gray. But when we arrived, magic. The skyline of Expo rose out of the St. Lawrence River like something out of Tomorrowland. Pavilions shaped like domes and diamonds, bright modern architecture, flags from around the world snapping in the breeze like applause. It felt like we had stepped into the future. Dutch dances in an alien world of optimism and invention. We performed on April 28th, 1967, outdoors for thousands. I remember standing just off stage in the cool wind, clutching my skirt in nervous fists as the MC introduced us from the Netherlands, the Dutch folk dance group. Okay, so that was chapter 1. So now I'm going to read an excerpt from chapter 8, My Life in Amsterdam. And then, out of nowhere, a fellow student had said something that changed everything. "Why don't you study in Amsterdam?" At first, I laughed. Amsterdam, really? But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. My parents were both born in the Netherlands. I had dual citizenship. I had always dreamed of studying in Europe, and if I stayed in Toronto, I knew what would happen. I'd become my dad's full-time caregiver. My mom had to return to work. The family needed help. But if I didn't follow my own path, I might never get another chance. So I made a decision. I recorded an audition tape, yes, an actual cassette, and mailed it to the teacher I had admired for years, Adrian van Woudenberg. He was the solo hornist, first horn of the Royal Concertgebouw Orchestra in Amsterdam. Then I waited. Weeks passed, and then, one day, a letter arrived in the mailbox. He said, yes, he accepted me as a student. I spent the next year working, saving money, and planning for the future. On April 30th, 1983, with my trusty Sony Walkman in hand, a suitcase packed with cassette tapes, sheet music, and my horn, I boarded a flight to Amsterdam. I was 23, nervous, excited, completely alive. I moved in with my sister and her husband, who were living right in the heart of Amsterdam. Their apartment became my landing pad until I couldn't find a place of my own. The city welcomed me like an old friend. Canals, cobblestones, and bikes flying past me at dangerous speeds. It was so alive, so new. That September, I began my studies at the Amsterdam Zweelink Conservatorium. But here's the thing. They had very limited practice space. And if you weren't there by 7:30 a.m. sharp, you were out of luck. So every morning, I scarfed down a quick breakfast, usually a slice of toast with thick Dutch Gouda cheese strapped to my horn on my back, hopped on my bicycle, and rode through the morning mist to the conservatory on the Bachstraat. And being an extrovert, I am, okay, let's be real, the loud Canadian. Every time I heard another horn player in the practice room, I'd knock on the door, pop my head in, and say, "Hi, I'm Wendy from Canada. If you hear about any auditions, let me know, okay?" One day, someone said, "Actually, the orchestra I play in is holding auditions for a principal horn. You should come and try out." I had been in the country for only a few months. I had one lesson, but I thought, well, why not? What's the worst that could happen? So I auditioned, and I still smile when I say this. I won the job. At 23 years old, I became principal horn of the Amsterdam Opera Company, the Hoofdstad Operette, and for the next 18 years, I played more than 180 shows a year, toured across Europe with overflowing suitcase and a full heart. I performed in majestic concert halls. So those are two segments from my book. I hope it piqued your interest. You know, one of the biggest reasons why I wrote Finding Wendy wasn't just to tell my story, but it was to remind people that your story matters. Storytelling is as old as humanity. The Inuit and First Nations cultures here in Canada, elders have passed down their history, wisdom, and traditions for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years through spoken word. Imagine those cold winter nights, families gathered around the fire, listening to the voices of their grandparents and great-grandparents, weaving the past to the future and to the present. Those stories weren't just entertainment, they were survival, but most importantly, they were identity. And somewhere along the way, we started losing that. Maybe it was the cell phone, maybe it was social media, maybe it was just life feels busier than ever. But I thought a lot of us have stopped really talking to each other. I recently read the book Dutch Girl. It's a wonderful book written by the son of Audrey Hepburn. And I admit I felt a pang of jealousy because I thought, wow, I wish I had written a book about my own mother. She had such an extraordinary life growing up in the Netherlands during the Second World War, surviving the hunger winter of 1945 and later immigrating to Canada in the early 50s with nothing but hope, determination, and a baby in her arms. So my message to you is this: don't wait. Don't wait to write your own story. Don't wait to sit down with your mother, your father, your grandparents, or your children and ask them to tell theirs. So if you don't know where to start, there are tools to help. I saw a wonderful ad for an app called Memento, and it was even featured on the show Shark Tank. It helps families preserve their loved ones' stories by recording them and turning them into keepsake books, using guided prompts to jog those memories. Because here's the truth: we all have stories worth telling, and once they're gone, they're gone. Writing Finding Wendy made me realize that the most important legacy we leave isn't money or possessions or awards. It's our voice, our memories, and the lessons we've learned along the way. So whether you use a fancy app, a journal, or just your phone's voice recorder, start now. You might be surprised by what you hear. So, my friends, Finding Wendy, the book is out now. You can get it in paperback on Amazon, and the Kindle version will come soon, and the Audible version, of course, will come soon as well. And so I hope that you do purchase it, and it would really mean the world to me if you would leave a review on the Amazon page about the book. It's not just for me, but also for other people. When they see a review, it helps other readers find it as well and decide whether or not it's a book for them. This book is for anyone who felt even too big for the world or too small in it. And it's for music lovers, it's for food lovers, and it's for anyone who believes in second or third or fourth chances. And honestly, it's for me, who didn't think she could ever tell this story. My goodness. So thank you for being here for episode 24 and being part of my story. I can't wait to hear what you think of the book. And remember, it's never too late to write your own story. So until next time, this is Wendy, signing off with a French horn in her hand and a pen in the other, and my new book. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye for now.